Hello all, and welcome to another Q&A, which remarkably is brought to you from the garden. It's the 29th of October, and it's like 15 degrees. So I've done some stuff this morning. I had to go and meet the new driver, so I've kind of lost my space in the house. And also, it's Clement. We may as well make the most of what we can. What's left of the greenery as the leaves are falling to pieces all over the place. I have to sweep these up, won't I? So I'm going to split it into two halves. I do this sometimes. Well, I'm not going to split it into two halves. There's going to be Sunday Q&A, and then there's going to be the response, the ongoing thing about the zone charges and the echo thing, because it's turning into something bigger, and I've had a lot of decent responses. I want to keep it separate, probably there. And also, otherwise it just goes on too long. So we'll do Q&A today, and then we'll carry on with the zone charges tomorrow. But what I'll do is I'll stop the camera, then I'll probably move over somewhere else and record it and look like I made a video at a different time somewhere else. So, firstly, thanks very much for all the birthday wishes. I won't go into everybody wish me happy birthday, but it's very much appreciated, and it's nice to know that people out there wish me happy birthday, so cheers. It was Steve Campbell's birthday as well, our mate, the nefarious Steve. He said for his birthday, so I've got new bedding for the truck, an FM transmitter so I can listen to my phone on the radio. That, mate, is a godsend. That really does. Get yourself I use the iPlayer because I listen to 6 or 2, but getting the DAB on the thing is brilliant. And from my boss, 2 fresh new tyres and a front axle and a new airline and a new shock absorber. Yeah, it's for his lorries, it's not for yours, isn't it? The truck I drive is Euro 6, so our fleet gets sent into London a lot. Well, he says, the truck I drive is the only Euro 6 in our fleet. So he goes into London a lot, which is a drag, but it depends whereabouts in London you go, and it's not all that painful, and it is doable, but I'm very happy I'm Euro 5. He also says, list the pen on the exchange as a motorcycle job. LOL. No, you don't get the free pen if I tell you it's free. You only get the free pen if you don't know it's free and go, that's a nice pen. Thus it continues. And also TC Services says, happy birthday, Pete. He was 53 himself last month. Seems to be the age to be. The new driver was 53. He said, nothing's changed apart from I can't read small print anymore, especially books. Are your books available on Kindle? Well, I'm glad you asked me. Steve at TC Services says, yes, they are. If you follow the link to the website, I've got to get my pen out. I always do this every week. Hold on. If you follow the link to 2.44, there we go. Follow the link to the website, and you can. But start with Shall I Go On, Mum? That's the best one. The other one, The Unbelievables, is a good book, but it can be great, and it's not great yet. I might have to rewrite it. Still good if you enjoy that kind of thing, but Shall I Go On, Mum's the one I recommend. So, the Alternative Courier Awards. The categories are in. Admittedly, it's still a work in progress, but we got the categories in for next year. So, the Courier Awards are going to be as follows. The Luke Van Guyap Award, who's never commented before, but I'm just very pleased about the award, for Worst Job / Most Chaotic Awful Wheels Came Off Job of the Year. TC Services, the award for the Strangest Load. Clive Littlewood, the Most Unbelievable Return or Best Paying Job, and by this it would be the one that comes out of nowhere, like I can't believe I'm in the middle of nowhere and I can't believe I've just got a job to outside my house, or someone who's going to give you crazy money for a job for no apparent reason. The London Creative Award for the most convoluted on-site where to go through the gate instructions. That stands for anything. That's like, I had a job once where the guy said deliver it to Reading, and I went, it's quite a big place, Reading. I might need a bit more information than that. He said it's near the church. But yeah, so we're going to have the most convoluted or most ridiculous instructions on how to get a job. And finally, the Steve Campbell Award, which is turned into the... Did that turn into the best paying job? No, it turned into something else. I'll have to come back to that. Steve, I've got to give you an award, mate. I'm not quite sure what your award's going to be, but bearing in mind how much comments you stick in, you're going to have to award of some description. So at the moment, it's worst job, best paying job, or worst job, best paying or most unbelievable return, strangest load and most convoluted instructions. And we've had some entries already, I'm very pleased to say. So that's part of the reason why I split it in two. We've had an entry from Tony Michaels, And he says, this is Tony's entry for the most chaotic wheels. He said, right, this is years ago. He said, when I was driving on the Arctics agency, my last drop on a Friday afternoon was a pokey little cash and carry in a residential street in Birmingham. He said it was our wedding anniversary, so I was keen to get done and go home to the missus. The restaurant was booked and the flowers were ordered. There were too many cars parked in the street to reverse in, so I drove forwards and assumed someone from the cash and carry would help me reverse out once I tipped. First off, the forklift ran out of gas. 10 heavy pallets of rice and chapati flowers unloaded by hand. Quite tiring and not a little sweaty. Next, the amount of sacks was short by a couple. Prolonged phone call by the cash and carry to the supplier. The afternoon was dragging on. 2 hours later, I get the POD signed and go for a pee, and then to try to find a member of staff to help me reverse out into the yard. Not a soul in sight. I go to reception. The lady speaks very little English, but manages to communicate to me that all the staff have gone to mosque for Friday prayers and won't be back for ages. Rush hour is nearly upon us, so I decide to risk it on my own. It's murder. I'm having to reverse out blindside into a residential street rammed with parked cars. After about the 14th shunt, I'm almost out when there's a loud hiss and the brakes lock on. I get out to see the red airline on the trailer has snapped and it won't be going anywhere very soon. It's not a big job, so I look under the bulkhead and the lockers for spares. Surely I must have a spare. No. Rush hour is now in full swing, so most of the city's most used rat runs are blocked by yours truly and a 46-foot trailer. Motorists are swearing at me, making very rude gestures. The Misc car park is trying and failing to empty. Tempers are getting frayed. After 20 minutes, during which time I've locked myself in the cab, frantically trying and failing to get through to the haulage company to report the breakdown, a copper arrives on a motorcycle and reports that the south of the city is now gridlocked. I explain the predicament. He makes some phone calls. 3 hours later, it's now gone past 7 p.m. A fitter from the haulage firm arrives and replaces the airline. The tachograph tells me I'm out of my 15 hours work time. I tell the fitter they're going to have to send another driver out. He laughs. It's Friday, mate. Everyone's gone home. The street has now been coned off by the police and they're going to check on the progress. I ask the copper to sign my tachograph printout so I can drive somewhere and park for the night, and he does. I find a little industrial estate and park and try to get comfy in the truck with no sleeping bag, pillows or night heaters. I locate a cash point which has been vandalised and knackered. After a cold, dirty, sleepless, hungry night, smelling like a baby's nappy, I drive back to the yard on Saturday morning. It's locked up with my car parked inside. I park the car across the gates and chuck the keys over the fence and call a taxi. The missus was not impressed. If it had happened this year, or from now on, I would have said, ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner. I mean, but this is the kind of thing we're talking about. This is definitely a massive contender for worst jobs wheels come off. So if you've got one of these, and also before we're on the subject, Rock God's out there, 2300, mate, how you doing? Best job I ever got, £2,500 per loaded mile. Problem was the job went 0.1 miles. From a factory to another factory next door, I don't think I even had to change gear. £2,500 times 0.1 miles, 250 quid. I've had that in a 7.5 tonne. I got 100 quid for driving 0.1 miles. And I wasn't far to collect it. So this is the kind of thing we're talking about, guys. So let's get some contributions in for most crazy sort of wheels came off job, strangest load, best paying job, most convoluted instructions, and the Steve Campbell Award will probably come later on. If you did put in other suggestions and I haven't taken it on board, it's not because they weren't any good. It's just I'm massively disorganised and just can't really get my head around these things. So that's the Courier Award that they're in, and thank you very much to Tony Michaels for that entry. It did make me smile. So best paying jobs, and maybe why you shouldn't charge as much as you should pay for the best paying job. So C11 Yan says, he said, that was because he brought this one up. He said it was to do with, he said, I got 1075 because it was 900 quid. I think it was an 18 tonne, but it had to drive from the east end of London to Poole and then back to the east end of London. But there was waiting time on top, so it's £900 originally, but obviously they kept him hanging around, so he's got some waiting time. He said the money for proper event lorry transport is disgusting, mostly wait and return, so it's all gravy. So it's, again, if you can get into it, my mate Richard, he does set designs. And he says there is ludicrous amount of money that what does he do? He dresses a set. And he said we have to get in, we have to put in, but the guys come in and they construct it, and then we come in and we dress it and we put the chairs there and then make it look like it's supposed to be like 1950s London or like New York, and it's actually in, I don't know, Bognor. And he said then we have to go and break it down at the end of the day. He said there are things on the inventory like a biro which gets rented, and if that biro goes missing they charge them a tenner. He said the biro costs 10p to buy, but it just is what it is. It's what they do. There is so much money involved in film. If you can get into it, brilliant. I know I forgot, what's his name, my mate the Liverpool guy, he's out there doing a lot of film. Sorry, my brain's gone blank. I've been speaking to him a lot lately, and there is doing it. If you can get into it, brilliant. Like a lot of things in life, if you can get into it, great. It's getting into it, isn't it, really? So David JM says, always nice to help someone when things need changing, especially if you can make money. And I agree with you there, David, yeah. I wondered about the tyre behind you. Is that the lorry? Is that for the lorry, or were you practising for Britain's Strongest Man tyre lifting competition? We've got the gym up the warehouse. I'm doing it from time to time. The scariest thing is I'm sitting on those tyres, because sometimes when I make the videos, I try and find somewhere that looks a bit, you know, sort of funky or different, or certainly Courier driverish to record it. Admittedly, I'm in back garden right now. And then I was just finishing the video, and this lorry came reversing towards me. And I must have seen, well, when he was starting reversing into this space, he must have seen me there. And he kept going and going and going. And it occurred to me, if I carried on sitting there, he would have squashed me up against the wall. Which is why I went, beep, beep, I'm going now. And I just jumped and walked away. But, you know, it's not, in fairness, an argument can be made that if he has squashed me against the wall, it's a bit like, it's not like you didn't see him coming. You can't miss it. It's a 40-foot trailer going beep, beep, beep at 2 miles an hour. If you're stupid enough to sit there, you deserve squashing against the wall. So I didn't. I moved. Right, so as we say, it's a shorter one this week because I'm going to do the one on zone charges coming up tomorrow. The Wise Guys. Reality Gary says, is this the same? All right, now he's talking about transport managers. Is it the same if I was just running on my own? But I think what he's saying is he wants to give it a go. Do I need a transport manager if it's just me in the truck? Unfortunately, yes, you do. You need the same setup for one lorry as you do for 100 lorries. You need, they want to know whether, the only difference is the amount of money you need to have in the bank for running a lorry. For one lorry, you need to have about £8,500, which then goes up by £4,000 for every lorry you run after that. But you still need a transport manager, you still need to have proof of parking, you still need to find a ratified mechanic, you still have to check all the things. To get into trucks is complicated. Whether it's 1 or 100, it's complicated. In fairness, the further on down the road you get, the easier it actually gets, because all you do is you find ways that one size fits all. We're on CheckSafe now. Once you've got all the drivers on CheckSafe, I can see everything. It does get easier, but to start with, it's like pushing a boulder. You know, when you start to get it moving, it's really heavy. Once the things actually start rolling, you can just push it from time to time, and it goes on its own momentum. Andy Darwin says, is it right that it costs £2,000 to £2,500 to join the Courier exchange? I don't know, Andy, because it changes every time, but I supremely doubt that. It went out the bank this quarter. We pay about £2,500, just over 2,600, but we pay that for all singing, all dancing, Courier exchange and haulage exchange, and all the extra apps and everything else. I think last time it came up, Van on the Run said last time he subscribed, it's about 850 quid. If you just go sole trader, not a business, most basic package there possibly is, I think it's about £850 for the year. And you pay the first year straight, and then afterwards you can ask them to go on it quarterly, which means you can go on about £200 and something every 3 months, which does help take the sting out of it. But they will want the first year up front. It's just the way they work now. It's different. When I joined about 4 years ago, it cost me I think it cost me £600 to join for the year. It might have been 12. No, I can't remember. And they even let me pay it in 2 instalments, so that was better. But times change. Fuelhead J says, question for you: what accounting software do you use for dum-dums? Which one are you using? We're on QuickBooks, but I have nothing to do with it. our sorts, the account side, the office things are nothing to do with me. The disavowed debt, the chasing of the debt, the factoring company, all the ratification there, and all the accounts and stuff is all down to Al. So if anyone would recommend accounting software, the best idiot-proof accounting software for Fuel Edge J, let's give him a shout out, and we can maybe get that onto him for next week. So, right, miscellaneous. Forgot to write down wise, guys. I'm more on as usual. Mark Jones says, happy birthday. Thank you very much, Mark. He said, is the best van still to buy a Luton curtain cider? We've done one on this, mate. On an argument can be made for a small van. Arguments can be made. I still believe, and I'm fairly confident to say, if you want to make the most money on a CX, it's a Luton curtain cider with a tail lift. Yeah, basically Luton curtain tail lift, but bear in mind these are very hard to come by, and they're often ex-Courier motors. Often the best way is to get a Luton box with a tail lift, which will be an ex-rental, which has probably only been used for like light removals for the last 3 years on as low mileage as you can afford, and then after a while get one side converted to a curtain. You've got the best of both worlds. You can fork on a machine if they need to, and if you need to strap something to the sidewall, you still can because you've got a sidewall. And if you're going to get it converted, get the left-hand side converted, because chances are if you're going to pull up on the road and they're going to need to load, some distribution centres you pull up into, they haven't got a lot of time, a lot of space to move on their forecourt, so they'll ask you to pull up on the road, in which case you can open the side of the curtain and they can just fork it straight in. Camo Courier says, he says, make sure you understand the ULEZ or congestion is added to a docket. It means the daily amount, i.e. £15, has been added to the job, not that it's been paid to Transport for London. I've just been hit with 4 congestion fines because I asked the controller if my charges had been covered. He said yes, on a steep learning curve. And then he goes on to say, I'm either the thickest or the unluckiest career driver out there. Very frustrating, and he likes the videos. Not frustrating at all, mate. I actually think that should have been indicated by me before, so I will be doing a separate video for you on that one. I feel your pain, but if it makes you feel any better, in the video I will probably include some of the amazingly stupid errors that I made when I started. And honestly, yeah, I even thought, could you appeal to Transport for London and go, well, look, I made a mistake and I thought this was this, and I thought, nope, you've got absolutely no chance. Just wipe your mouth and walk away. But like I say, life is a great teacher, but the school fees are high. And finally, on the note of the miscellaneous, Jeremy Hawke says, Pete, is that a Rolex? No, this is a Omega Seamaster. No, not Seamaster. Yeah, it's a Seamaster Planet Ocean dual time coaxial chronometer, or at least it very much looks like one. Yeah, it's a diver's watch, but I wouldn't get it wet. It's not unusual. I've got a pair of desert boots. I wouldn't walk across the Sahara in them. So, yeah, that's kind of... I have actually got a original, which I got for my 31st birthday, Seamaster. The same one that Pierce Brosnan wore in GoldenEye. Because I played the game on the Nintendo and I thought, I like that watch. And so my mum lived in Spain. She went to Gibraltar, and the whole family put in half the money, and I put in half the money, and it's sitting in a drawer because the helium escape valves come off and it needs regulating. And I think it cost me £1,100 to buy. Now, if you want to buy one of them, they're £5,500. The repair bill on it, £300 to £500. Oh, I ain't got £300 to £500. But when I bought it, I didn't even realise that you had to get these things repaired and serviced. I thought that was it. You just bought a watch, and it just lasted forever. Nope. There are more reasonable alternatives out there, but then of course I really wouldn't know anything about it. And finally, in conclusion this week, Steve Campbell says, oh yeah, he said, I've just realised I can finally have a say, as I've held down this job long enough. So, because he said, I've been in this job now for 2 monarchs, 3 prime ministers, and presumably 4 chancellors, and I've never been employed. He said, I've never been employed for longer than 10 weeks, and yet I'm still starting in my 10 weeks. Yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster of a ride, hasn't it? Really, we're going to see what the new the 17th, what the budget comes in. My mortgage is up. That's a shocker. Still, at least if I need to pay my mortgage, I have the opportunity to take care and take money.